What is up, everyone? Welcome to Nickel City Mafia. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Rush Hour. Hope everyone's doing great this evening. Joining me tonight is Cody Smith from the Fantasy Draft Room. Our good friend Jake, on the other hand, has been on a business trip and wasn't able to get back in time. So you'll see him next Wednesday, or who knows, he may show up. Like if he puts the baby to bed and the baby cooperates, maybe he'll jump on. But Cody, thanks for joining me tonight. We're gonna have a little bit of a fun show. We're gonna talk about some wide receiver draft prospects the Bills could be looking at in the 2025 draft. But before we get into all that, how are you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic. It's a little bit chilly down here right now. 32 and below in Houston should not happen. So we're dealing with that. The whole city is going to shut down basically tomorrow because nobody even knows how to. It's not even going to rain. It's just below freezing, and that's bad enough. Got to turn on all the taps, make sure your pipes don't burst. I'm sure there's going to be that across the town, but we're all good here. We're prepped and ready for that, and we're prepped and ready with wide receivers as well.
Awesome. So yeah, we have some. We have where I work. We have a facility out in Dallas, and yeah, they've been telling me how cold it's been. Feels like -1. I think it was either yesterday. Yes, they're having to run the water to keep the pipes from freezing. Man, bringing back memories from when I was back in Buffalo as a youngster. Um, crazy. But then I hear within a few days, temperatures are going to jump to 75, something crazy like that.
Back up as soon as like Sunday. I think we're back up into just normal sunny and Texas weather for the middle of February.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it, Cody. So I'm going to give you a scenario. And by the way, Cody, the fantasy draft room, you've been away from it a little bit, but are you going to get back into it this year?
I've actually got a show upcoming. I did one last week, and I did one the next week on the other channel that I work for called Dynasty Fantasy DD Fantasy Football. DD Fantasy Football. So I'll be on there. I've got one show that dropped last week, one show that'll drop this week. If you want to check out any of that work over there, we do Dynasty Fantasy Football stuff, and we'll be hoping to pick back up the Fantasy Draft Room or the Overreaction podcast that I do for DD Fantasy Football as well here sometime in the next couple months.
Love it. So Cody does a lot of analytics on the skill positions. He's also on our Discord. We have some other gentlemen on this network that do fantasy football as well. So all your fantasy football advice, join the Discord. Link is in the description of the show. So
and before you start, I'll let people out there know, if you do join into that Discord, the entire sheet that I'm going to be reading from, all of my stuff is in, all of my prospect grades are in, and everything like that is already in the fantasy football channel of that Discord. So if you want to jump in there, it's a nice little free thing that you can go back up there and get at any time. It's just a live Google sheet, doesn't need to have access or anything, free and open to public.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Cody. And yeah, and Cody and Chris and Jeremy, I mean, they love this stuff. So you go out there in the Discord, ask them, they'll answer you pretty quickly. They love talking football, fantasy football for sure. So let me give you the scenario here, Cody. The Buffalo Bills in the 2025 draft, they have one first round pick, their 30th overall. They have two second round picks, which is number 56 overall and 62 overall. They don't have a third round pick, and that's because they traded that in the Amari Cooper deal. And then they have two fourth round picks, one at 107 and one at 130. It's about as far deep we're going to go, maybe fifth round. But the scenario is this: I don't think the Bills are going to focus early on in the draft on the offense. I just don't, because the offense is pretty well intact. Our whole O line's coming back. James Cook is like put a little thing out there. Maybe there's a little back and forth with him getting his money, but he's under contract. So I expect him to be back. We have Ray Davis. So the wide receiving group and Ty Johnson, he is a free agent. So hopefully we can sign him back. Wide receivers, we got Kean Coleman coming back, Khalil Shakira. And then we're hoping to get Matt Collins signed again. Love that. So he's a unrestricted free agent currently. Hope to sign him back. Got both our tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Dalton Knox coming back. So again, the Bills' offense is in really good shape. Defense is where we really need to focus on. However, I'm looking for one wide receiver, Cody, one wide receiver in particular, and that is a speedster. Somebody who can keep the defense honest. Let's face it, the Bills don't really have that. Even Amari Cooper didn't show that. I thought he might be that guy last year. But he's also, I don't expect the Bills to bring him back. That was a great rental, nice
Yep.
trade.
Agreed.
Got him on the cheap, third round. And but he's going to still command a decent amount of money, probably a 2-year deal. I don't expect the Bills to sign him. So with that said, first of all, let me see here. What Spaghetti Steve says. I think Tez Johnson or Matthew Golden. Are they on your radar, Cody?
Well, I mean, I've definitely looked at them. The problem that you're going to have is you're going to give me some cutoffs soon, and one is going to go before you all pick probably, and the other one is a little itty bitty 156 is what he weighed in at the Senior Bowl. So I don't think they're going to make your cutoffs for me, but they are some speedsters.
Well, listen, I can be sold. So for me, this is just my opinion. I'm going to give you those filters right now. So if maybe in the late second round, I don't expect it, but we can target somebody from the late second round through the fourth round. Again, we have no third round pick. We got 2 fourth rounds. So let's look at that's most likely going to be a scenario coming out of the fourth round, or maybe a fifth rounder as well. We do have a fifth round pick and we got Khalil Shakir a few years back in the fifth, and look at how that turned out. But here's my filters from me. Want a speedster? That means, man, 4.45 at the highest, right? I would love a high 4.3 guy. 4.3, high 4.3s, 4.45 cutoff. I would love it's got to be at least 6 foot. I know this is where you're going to start saying, man, this guy falls below your 6 foot criteria. 6 foot at a minimum. Love to have at least 200 pounds on this guy. Now I know those filters are going to probably knock some people out. So don't just throw those away. Other ones that you have that you can say, you know what, Mike, this guy might not meet your height. He's 5'11", about 190. I'm good with all that. Need someone to keep the defenses honest. First, I want to start with a guy that my good friend Sean, I think you've met Sean. I think you've been on the show with Sean.
Yep.
And he says, man, we've got to target Savion Williams. So I did let me bring him on up here right now. So I did a short earlier this week on him. I don't know if you caught that, Cody. I showed some film on him. He's 6'5", 225. He had 6 touchdowns receiving, as you can see on the screen there, 611 yards. He had 322 yards rushing and another 6 touchdowns. 6'5", 225 certainly meets the criteria. I'm hearing anywhere from high 4.3s to a 4.45. We just won't know. One of the issues, one of the concerns is he just recently had labor and surgery. He missed the Senior Bowl because of that. And odds are he's probably going to miss the combine and maybe even his pro day if he misses the combine. From what I'm no doctor. From what I read, the labrum takes about 3 to 4 months to fully heal for somebody who's in the sports world. So that's my one concern. We may not get those true numbers prior to the draft. But when I mentioned Savion Williams, you had some takes on him, Cody. So talk to me about what you're thinking on Savion Williams.
Yeah, so Savion, honestly, the first thing that jumps out to you is that size. It's fantastic, truthfully, whenever you're trying to watch film back. And there's somebody who is just such a standout on the field, either to their size being massive or their size being small, that because whenever they're lined up to the side, you can't really see their numbers. So you just have to look at them and try to figure out which one you're trying to watch through that rep. And Savion Williams, you know every time exactly where he is on the field because he's just that massive compared to everybody else on the field, especially at the wide receiver position. Just a little bit of background on him. Yeah, that he's a 5th-year senior, so it makes him a little bit older as well. But he was a high school quarterback convert into a wide receiver running back, and he actually played both wide receiver and running back for TCU this year. So he had a total of 51 rushing attempts as well, along with the wide receiver production that you show. And he also has kick returner ability. He also was used as a kick returner early in college. He's massively physical throughout all of the routes as well. Where I start to have the problems, though, I would put him more towards that 4.45 speed if I had to guess where he comes in at. If we probably won't get those results either from a combine, from a pro day, so we won't really know what that is. But he moves very well enough for the size that he's running at. Where I get a little bit questionable, though, is there's a lot of drops that pop up on film. Hands are always shaky all the way throughout it for me personally, and there's a little bit of a lack of refinement that I would like to see from the route running in there. I think he is more of a specialty, just kind of like massive guy that you would have to use in a little bit more of a specialized way instead of a true wide receiver that's out there, maybe as a third wide receiver. But I don't think he's ever really going out. I had a comp for him that I was saying he was like a less refined Xavier Legette, if you remember him for the
Oh
Carolina
yeah,
Panthers from
I
last
remember
year,
him.
who
Yep.
just has that size to him, but the refinement isn't exactly there. And I think he would be a little bit more of a project. And maybe that's because he was a convert coming out, as a quarterback. He hasn't played wide receiver as long. So we can definitely get there. But I think he would be a little bit more of a project player than he would be a just plug and play burner.
Okay. I love these player comparisons, by the way, by the way, I'm using NFL Draft Buzz. For anyone that watching this show, if you want to check out everyone we're going to be talking about, go to NFL Draft Buzz. No affiliation for me or this channel, but they're free. And I think they do a very good job with their player profiles. Are they the best site? Probably not. Probably got to pay some money for it to get a little bit better. Um, for instance, they don't let you show more than 13 players at a time on a screen, which is a little bothersome to me. But otherwise, they do a pretty good job. And so check them out. They have your pros, your cons, draft profile. Um, One thing I like about him, this always catches my eyes, like anybody who makes the Bruce Feldman's freak list. He wrote Williams, though, jumps well too, having hit 10.6 on the broad jump and posted a 40-inch vertical. I mean, when you have a 40-inch plus vertical and you're 6'5", oh boy, I want to
It's a
see
lot of
I
mass
want
moving.
I
That's a
want to
lot of
see
mass moving.
yeah, I want to see the corner who's going to try to cover that person. Now we do have Kean Coleman, 6'4". He's also 220-ish, big guy. But he's not that speed guy. He's that everyone out of the draft said he doesn't get much separation. That's exactly what we saw. They were spot on with Kean Coleman. Not much separation, 50-50 guy. I think he's going to get a lot better. I'm still excited about him. I think he's going to improve this year, get more involved in the offense. But can you imagine Kean Coleman, Matt Collins, Khalil Shakir? Yes, I'm using your term. I love that. And, Xavier Williams lining up out there. I mean, watch out. But so what else we have here? You said he's quarterback. Yeah, I saw in his highlight film a couple throws that he had. They weren't the prettiest. They didn't look like he played quarterback. But yeah, he was a dual threat. I have concerns about that as well. It's not like the Buffalo Bills. I don't see the Bills taking a guy, throwing him in the backfield and using him like a Debo Samuel. I just don't, especially when you have the running back room that the Buffalo Bills have. I just don't see Brady doing that. It's nice that he could. Uh, let's see here. They also say shows promise as a vertical threat with the ability to stack defenders and track the ball downfield effectively. So, Cody, I know you do a lot more analyzing of the film than I do. Basically, I just look at his highlight, and of course, it's going to be the best of the best, right, of what he's done.
Right.
And I did see him like turn on the burners a few times. If you saw his highlight, and I highlighted this on the short. There's one play where he's running out of the backfield, and he makes a cut, which is unbelievable, a little spin move, and he's gone to the races. And then there's another play where he catches the pass downfield and takes it to the house. So again, I'm bummed that we're not going to be able. I'm not going to say we're not going to see him, but I'm bummed we may not see him in the combine or the pro day to get those true numbers. Because I've heard guys before like Draft Bus says this guy should be in the 4.3s. Next thing you know, he runs a 4.6. Right. So it's like I love when someone can make the combine. And even if he did, Cody, I don't see him doing anything more than the 40. He can do the 40, but I don't think any drills that are going to be using the shoulder are going to come into play for this young man.
Yeah, if he did anything, you would expect it to all be like lower body stuff, like a 3 cone, shuffle or a 40-yard dash. I don't think he'd be doing that quickly off of a surgery. I don't think he'd be doing anything on the field as far as actual workouts go.
Now, the other beautiful thing about him, and Joe Brady would love this guy because he can block. I mean, just by being that big, just by being that big, Cody, you have an advantage, and you should be, or at least be able to be coached to be a very good run blocker, and that's what Joe Brady loves. So this guy could be that person as well. So I'm give you some things here. Quarterback rating when targeted, 110.7, like that. Let's see here, hands. So I guess you're kind of right. 65% is not bad. But again, I only watched the highlight film, but you go a lot deeper. So you did see some issues with drops, huh?
Yeah, typically I try to get like a full 3 game sample size, and so it's a lot more. It's a lot more of the actual routes for me. As much as I put a little bit of a context to that one, that I did see the couple of drops that are just like, I mean, there's some bad ones too, at least in the 2 games that I watched. In particular, Stanford and UFC or UCF games were the 2 that I really got all the way through. And then, we're trying to get all targets as well, just to try to get a full encompass of the player. But those 2 in particular stood out for me a little bit. But really, hands is probably one of the least things. I call it as one of the least sticky stats that tracks with you through a season. So it may just be that he had a little bit of a problem with it in a couple of games in particular, in 2024 in particular. It can bounce right back from that. Typically, would love to see it from a more traditional wide receiver, not from a convert, but I don't necessarily, it's not my major concern with him moving forward.
Gotcha. Weston, good to see you out there. I'm here, Mike, and then Weston always likes to bring up the fact we were live on the draft last year. We're going to be live again this year. And when King Coleman was announced, Weston somehow gets his news before it was even before they even came to the podium. He says it's going to be King Coleman. I was like, no, 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 no. He cracks up every time he rewatches that.
He was outside of my top 10 wide receivers in that class last year.
Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
yeah, I was doing the same thing.
So Spaghetti Steve, thanks again for joining us. Look, that's some damn good looking spaghetti, Steve. Do you like specialize in spaghetti? Because I'm a big fan of it. But he says he looks like another Kian, but with less athleticism and a little faster. So yeah, I mean, height, weight, I agree. I know Kian has a crazy vertical as well. So they're very similar with a little more speed. Um, But isn't that a good thing, Steve? Not a good thing? Isn't that what we want? Somebody who can, take the top off of defense, keep them honest, get open downfield for a nice deep throw. I don't know. Again, 4.45 is pretty damn good. I think that's what Amari was at. I think Amari at one point, I don't know where he is this time in his career, was a 4.45 guy. But yeah, we won't know. I'm bummed we probably won't know. So we'll see. That was one guy. Now let's talk about like where he could go. Now, because he doesn't go to the combine, or maybe doesn't even be participating in pro day, he could fall. He could fall. Maybe, I don't know. They got him here on NFL Draft Buzz as the 96th overall. That's right at the bottom of the 3rd round. So he could slip into the 4th. But again, the Bills are picking pretty late in the 4th. So I don't know if it would fall to him, fall to us. But what's your projection on him as far as where you think he might go in the draft?
Yeah, funny actually. They have him. I'm going to drop him a little bit lower once the process is over for me personally. But currently, as it sits right now in my ranks, I need to adjust him a little bit. But Savion Williams is position rank 13, and there's his position rank 13 as well.
Okay.
I think that upside of his athleticism, if you can really convert him into a full route running wide receiver, it does put him up there. And I think that elite upside is what a lot of people are trying to chase there. I don't imagine him, regardless of even if he was at the combine, going in rounds 1 or round 2. So I would normally say 3rd round. You might see him slip to the 4th just because of that, especially if there are some, like, if they can't get medicals checked out at the combine or anything comes up wrong there, you could see him slip right down a little more. But yeah, I would probably say somebody will take the upside on the athleticism in the 3rd, which is where I had him originally.
Yeah, so if Buffalo wanted that, they'd have to make some deal, with their 4th and 5th and make some deal to get into the 3rd round. So we'll see. I mean, again, like I said, he's starting. He's starting with the criteria that I'd love to see. But we'll see. So, all right. So beyond that, talk to me here. Talk to me. Let me go. So again, like you said, NFL Draft Buzz had him ranked as the 13th best receiver in this draft. And let's go to your next guy that we should talk about.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think just with where y'all are in the draft, I mean, at the top of the draft, Tedero McMillan easily fits what you exactly want. And he's not even just a burner. He's probably the best wide receiver in the draft all around and can run that 4.5. Massive dude as well, just complete and utter body control all the way throughout the routes. Really like Tet. He's my clear one. He's my clear wide receiver one in this class. Then the next one that hits your criteria is Igbuka. Problem is, I think there might actually be a floor for Igbuka in the draft whenever the Texans come up at 23 or whatever their draft pick is this year. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with Igbuka and coming to my Houston Texans as kind of that slot Tank Dell replacement or slot Stephon Diggs replacement. So I don't think that either of those two will make it all the way to 30 unless there'd have to be a massive trade up for Tet and a minor trade up for Igbuka, probably in the mid first to back half
And,
of the
and
back
remember, Cody, I have no doubt the Bills are not picking a wide receiver in the
in
first.
the
I don't
first,
even
right?
think they're going second round. They need to focus on the defense. So I'm thinking someone's gonna have to be third, fourth, fifth round guys. And if those two are, I love that you're talking about. Let's talk about them. But again, if
Right.
you're talking first round, I don't see Buffalo making that move.
I don't see it either. I've got two guys that I do have to mention for the second round potentially, and that's Alec Manor and Jalen Royals. I could see both of those guys going in the second, maybe not at the back of the second, but both of those guys I do think could fall to the second. If you wanted to make a little bit of a reach for the Bills, I could see either of those two. We don't have to discuss either of them in full detail. And coming out of Stanford and Utah State, I don't have a full. I didn't have enough games of like all 22 of them to really get a full picture. But they were within the top 12 of my wide receiver rankings. So I think either of them could go in the second potentially.
Yeah, both of those guys caught my eyes. I mean, Jalen Royal, 6 foot, run according again. This is I don't know when they captured their 40 time in college. I don't know when that occurs, who does it. 4.38, Jalen Royal, 6 feet, right at that filter that I have. And 205. And Alec, how do you say his last name?
Ayo Manor.
Ayo Manor, okay. 210, 6'2, 442. So again, if Jalen Royals fell, one of these two could go into the second round. Maybe the Bills, if they really wanted to. Again, I don't think they're going to, but there's potential right there if they wanted to make a move in the second. But the 90% of me says no way are the Bills taking a wide receiver in one or two. It's not happening.
Right.
All right,
So
who else
let's
we got?
drop down to currently my wide receiver 12. Probably my overall favorite wide receiver that I've seen in this class so far. Just hit home with me personally. It's Pat Bryant, and he's probably going to be further down a lot of other people's rankings. Definitely won't be on a first page here.
All right. Do you want to talk about, since we're on the first page real quick, and Spaghetti Steve talked about him, Tez Johnson?
Yeah, Tez Johnson, 5'9", 156, but can run probably going to run sub 4.35. Tez Johnson, I mean, obviously we're going to be outside of the cutoff, but what you do have with Tez Johnson, I mean, the production, the route running, it's just absolutely fantastic. He absolutely cooked everybody at the Senior Bowl this year as well. He was one of those few guys that, like, nobody could put hands on him. Now it's obviously set up for the wide receiver there.
Yep.
So you get a little bit of a bonus definitely to that size of a wide receiver as well. They just look better in those one-on-one drills whenever you're out there, just wide receiver against corner, and they can run whatever they want. So obviously the size is a major concern. But I have him as high as wide receiver 7. He'll probably drop down a little bit further for me just because of the size adjustment, just because I don't think he'll be drafted as high because of that. But fantastic route runner, a true slot only, obviously with the size, but he can always be open. He's going to get a lot of Tank Dell comparisons.
So I can be sold on him. It's 5'10". Obviously, you put on those cleats. You know how the NFL always adds on. In the book, they're like, yeah, they'll add an inch or two. He'll come in at 6. But I love the speed. I love what you're saying. And Steve Spaghetti Steve love him. Tez Johnson. Where did you say you think he might fall in the draft? Where you see him?
I would say he's late 2, early 3, probably for Tez.
Right. So late 2 again. If Buffalo did want to do something, they'd have to do it with one of their second round picks. And with us having 3 picks in the 1 in the first, 2 in the second, there's just so much need over on the defense
Right.
that I just don't. They're just not going to do it. All right, so let's continue on. Let's go to this other gentleman you're talking about. What was his name?
Pat Bryant.
See if I can find Pat. Let's see if he made page number 2.
You got a search tab up on the right hand side as well.
Yeah, let's use that. Pat Bryant.
And so Pat Bryant, as we're pulling
Illinois.
that one up, 6'2", 208, runs a little bit slower. They have him projected at a 4.56 wide receiver out of Illinois. He's a fourth-year wide receiver, so he's a true senior. I think he might run a little bit faster. He's definitely not the true burner type, but man, the production over the last couple of years as well. He's gone from 34 to 43 to 54 receptions, almost 1,000 yards this year with 5 touchdowns. From every report that I've heard from the team, he was like a true team captain, came back and was actually like fully leading this team as well. My actual early comp that I wrote down for him, and this is why I wanted to bring him up specifically, is my early comp was Mac Hollins. The dude is just absolutely gritty as hell. He is he is a massive in the blocking game as well. He can run those deep shots. He has a ton of those all over tape. There's a lot, and every time that he's in any sort of blocking thing, he's always just throwing an extra couple of jabs at somebody's head, and then he's chasing his guys down the field. Whenever they're scoring touchdowns, you see him just trailing and celebrating with his guys as they're going down. Like, overall, as a wide receiver, I don't think he's going to be anything like truthfully special, but as like a wide receiver 3 guy that you could use if Mac Hollins weren't to be resigned for some reason, I would love to see a Pat Bryant there.
Yeah, I can see a world where the Bills are like, screw you, Mike. We don't need a speedster. All these guys have decent speed. Look at Mac Hollins. He was able to get deep a few times. Khalil Shakir. We're not talking slow by any means. 4.56. Oh my gosh, I wish I could run that fast. And I could see a world where the Bills are like, we're just going to get guys big, physical, who can block, and we're just going to dominate. And these guys, again, short routes, over the middle routes. Good luck guarding these type of guys, right? Good luck. We saw Matt Collins make, he didn't get a lot of targets, but when he did, they were meaningful. He made plays. And Matt Collins, dude, what is he? He's also 6'4", over 200 pounds. And my goodness, does he have some guns on him, man? You've seen some photos. Woo. Good stuff there. So that's a good one. So Pat Bryant, you're saying, where are we falling here? Where are we falling? Potential 4th round? 5th?
I would say 4th, 5th round is where I'd probably put Pat Bryant now. For me, like, I'd be probably up to the 3rd, but I don't think I haven't seen the draft community up as high as on him as I have been. So I think he'd probably be, in that 20s range of wide receiver positionally, and probably in the 150s or so at the actual draft position.
All right. They have him 4.56. You think he'll be a little faster than that?
I could see a little bit. I don't think he's getting sub 4.5, but I could see a little bit closer to the bottom of 4.5.
Awesome. Again, he meets all the other criteria. And again, I can see the Bills just saying, this is the type of guy we want. We want those Matt Collins of the world, so Keon Coleman's of the world. So who we got next, sir?
All right. Next one that we're going to go to, I've got, we'll do these guys back to back because it'll probably make it a little bit easier. But the 2 massive wide receivers out of Tennessee are the next ones that made the criteria for me, or your criteria that I looked at and was watching a little bit earlier today whenever we were coming on to the show for. It's Brew McCoy. We'll do the first one because I like Brew a little bit better than his counterpart.
How does he spell it?
BRU. Nickname given to him by his grandmother was Bruiser McCoy. And also, his first actual name is Horace McCoy. And I don't know why I would totally just go with either Bruiser or Horace. I think he chose the worst one of these options.
6'3". Oh, my goodness. 230. My goodness. Do they have a 40 time on him? They have him at a 4 or 5.
6'2".
Wow.
I got my number as 215. So I don't have him at the 230, but he is massive.
Maybe he's lost a little weight, went on a little diet. I don't know. He's a senior as well? Tell me about.
He's actually a 5th-year senior technically. Okay. He was suspended back in 2021 for an alleged incident that got dropped. Nobody really knows what came out of that one. And then in 2023, he was cut short. His season was cut short due to a right fractured ankle. The production hasn't ever really been there, but it's just been such a tumultuous kind of career for him through college that I'm not as concerned about the production. And with both of these Tennessee guys, it's so hard to kind of get the production of that Tennessee offense. They have 10 guys, yeah, 10 guys who are over 10 receptions in that offense. And their highest reception receiver was the next guy we'll talk about, or actually it is Brew. And he was only at 39 receptions this year. So
Okay.
like they just spread the ball around everywhere in that like really, really spread out scheme.
All right. So let's change the criteria a little bit. These are big guys. Again, it's feeling like Mac Hollins type guys. Obviously, my filters are ruling out the speedsters, the smaller guys. Um, let's talk about this next guy real quick on Tennessee, but then
Yep.
give me, right, Mike, if you really want a speedster, you're going to have to go with a 5'11, 5'10, 5'9 guy. We'll talk about those. But tell me about this
Yeah.
other gentleman from Tennessee.
Yeah, you got one more. And this one we do actually dip down below 445 for you, but it's
Okay.
Dante Thornton Jr., DONT
Okay.
apostrophe E.
Dante Thornton. Now, I don't have my name on there, but do you know what my last name
Yeah.
is?
At the bottom, Tennessee.
My last name's Thornton. So here we go.
Okay.
Of course, I'm all about the Thorntons.
Yeah. So 6'5, 214,
Woo.
443 wide receiver out of Tennessee. This guy can actually burn.
Oh,
I don't think I think he's a little bit more one trick, which typically for me and how upgrading wide receivers, I like to see a little bit more of a full route tree. I don't like to see you penciled in as a single thing because for me personally, as a fantasy football guy, I need you to be able to get targets at all points across. You know, I need you to be able to get volume is what drives my game that I'm looking for. And I think he's a lot more specialized into just a absolute deep burner. And he does it at a size that you normally don't see this type of role at.
Cody, I mean, look at this. He did less than half the receptions of Savion Williams, had more yardage, 661 to 611 for Savion Williams, had the same number of touchdowns. Look at that receiving average of 25.4. And this dude meets all the criteria. Not only that, he has a great last name. So now you've made me a big fan of Dante Thornton. I'm gonna keep an eye on him. But talk to me as I scroll down here and give some more information about him. Talk to me about where you see him potentially going in the draft.
Yeah, this is a name that truthfully for me hasn't come up much. There is a little bit of a bias against the Tennessee offense as well, just because it's so specialized. I think it's Whipple who's their OC head coach. And a lot of people have a lot of concerns because in the NFL over the last since that offense has really been installed, there's been very few hits. Like this was Jalen Hyatt, who was a bust for the Giants, at least so far. We did have Cedric Tillman for the Browns, who had a little bit of a run last year. But Hendon Hooker was running that team before as well. Before Nico Amiat. Nope, not going to try to pronounce that last name. Nico A. I'll get that one eventually whenever he comes out next year. But I wouldn't think that he'd be any higher than the fifth. Just from what I haven't really heard his name. He hasn't really popped up on like any top 20 boards that I've seen. So I think that lack of like all around ability as a wide receiver will drop him a little bit lower. And the production just hasn't been there. I mean, this is his best year and only 26 receptions. He's only had 13, 17, and 9 in the years before. So he doesn't really have a lot of production, but he does one thing very well. And that is run deep. Like you said, a 25.4 yards per catch rate.
Amazing. I'm looking at so Draft Buzz. They don't have this for everybody, but they have him draft projection in the 6th round. That's kind of perfect for where I think the Bills are going to probably pick a wide receiver up. I could see them maybe going 4th round, but I really think this is a defensive minded draft. And again, everything we're talking about, maybe there's a free agent out there, which we're going to talk about free agents in another show. But I love what you're saying about this guy. I mean, they have his hands at 70%. Everything here. He's like deep threat, 93% tile, and compared to other prospects, I mean, even blocking 67. And just again, by being that big with some coaching, you become a great run blocker and exactly what a Joe Brady would love to have on his team. So, Cody, so far, other than Savion Williams, this is my guy. and he perfectly fits because we're getting him in the later rounds where I think the
Yep.
Bills might make this move. Cool, love that. All right, let's see what else we got on him here. Let's go because I like him so much. Let's talk about some of the
Let's go
things
through
that.
what they see on him.
Yeah. So elite size, speed combo with a frame that towers. Again, I love the guys can tower over defensive backs. Love it. Let's see here. Home run hitter, just like you said, the ability to take the top off of defenses and create chunk plays, exactly what we need. Quick off the snap with a smooth acceleration, allowing him to eat up cushion against off coverage quickly. Let's see, red zone mismatch potential due to his imposing frame and ability to high point balls over smaller defenders. And let's see here, let's look at a couple of the weaknesses that they have. Lackluster collegiate production raises questions about his ability to consistently impact games to the next level. It's kind of what you were saying. Did he play? Did he play for Tennessee his whole career?
No, I do think he was a transfer for. He only played there for the second 2 years. Let me pull it back up his player card. He was at Oregon the first 2 years.
Okay. Now, again, I'm not much of a college football watcher. I don't know if I mean, even the other guy you mentioned didn't have huge stats from Tennessee. Were they just not a passing team, or um,
They are, like I was saying earlier, 9 players with 10 plus receptions on the team, so they just spread it all around. And the one
yeah,
we looked at earlier was a high of 40 receptions on the year. They're just a spread out team who takes the ball wherever the weakness is giving, wherever the defense is misaligned, it's just going there. It's not really about winning your route or anything like that.
yeah. So it's fun. Always funny when they look at the weaknesses, how they contradict what they just said on the strengths. But here's lacks physicality. I don't know how a guy that big can lack physicality, but
I
uh,
actually have the same note.
really,
I didn't see any blocking game because all that I was looking at, all that I was able to get with him was targets before the show. But even after the catch, if you get to him, those long legs, you get it wrapped around him and he's going down.
really, okay, that's worrisome. Their overall summary, Thornton's tantalizing. I love hearing my last name. So Thornton's tantalizing blend of size and speed will have NFL teams salivating over his potential as a vertical threat. Right there, you had me. You had me at the first sentence, vertical threat. Let's see. Thornton could develop into a dangerous X receiver who commands safety attention and opens up the underneath game. His red zone potential adds value, but he'll need to refine his releases and expand his route tree to become more than just a one trick pony. Teams will need to weigh his athletic upside against his current limitations. Scheme fit will be crucial for Thornton's success. He profiles best in vertical pass and attack that can maximize his deep threat ability. So again, I think just having a guy like that, just the guy that can come in and like scare defenses a little bit would be fantastic. And he's not going to be starting for the Buffalo Bills, of course, especially drafted in the fifth or sixth round with who we currently have. But it'd be nice to have him. So I am good choice there, Cody. All
Yeah,
right,
love him. He's probably for what criteria you gave me, he's probably best fit that I have. And I've got one more that I was finishing up
all right,
just before we went on. I
sure.
didn't get enough to like really get full notes on him, but Theo Weiss, wide receiver out of Missouri.
How you
Theo
spell it?
Weiss is Wease.
Is that his first name?
Theo is first name.
Oh, Theo Theo.
Yes, Weiss.
Theo, there he is, out of Missouri.
So Theo Weiss, a 6'2", 202, runs a 4.42, and I do believe that he can run that 4.42. Um, Interestingly, though, like this Missouri offense was so bad that they don't really like. He does run some vertical threat routes, but he's also weirdly used underneath as like a screen wide receiver a lot more. I think it's Brady Cook there for quarterback from Missouri. It was just an awful year, and that offense was hamstrung. He actually produced pretty similarly in just terms of overall numbers to who was going to be a first round pick and who was also a burner in Luther Burden. But the numbers between those two at wide receiver, just in their overall stats, is actually not that different from this year. So he was heavily involved in the offense, but they were just hamstrung by the limitations of their quarterback.
Got it. So I love the criteria: 6'2", 192, and let's see, 884 receiving yards, 60 receptions, 4 receiving touchdowns. Let's take a look at what they say about him.
And I do actually even have it better for you. That 202 was a confirmed Shrine Bowl measurement, so we do even have a better weight than that.
Love it. So they have him draft projection of 7th round. So again, these are guys that late round picks, which I think is where the Bills are going to be focusing. Again, we could probably pick somebody up in the 5th. We're going to talk about some other guys. We're going to go outside my criteria now. Now you're going to give me some really speed burners that you think might go in the 5th round or a little bit earlier, because most of these guys are very late round picks right now. But I love it. They're meeting my criteria. And again, it's that speedster that I feel we truly need. Let's see here. What do they say about him? Let's look at a couple little things.
One of the problems, he's been in college for 6 years, so he is
Oh,
ancient in terms of draft.
yeah. All right. That to me takes him down a notch, for me at least.
I don't know. I don't know his exact age. I didn't get to that number yet, but I would assume he's probably closer to 24 than he is 20, which some other prospects will come in at.
All right. So he's definitely a flyer, Cody. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Some of the other guys that are on your list that are outside of my criteria, but they're still speedsters. The one criteria that needs to be there is a speed burner.
Yep, can
Who we got?
definitely do that. I don't know where he's going to go because I do think he's known in the NFL draft circles, and people are still putting him up into like the 2nd round. I just don't personally see it because I see more of just a true burner. But it's Isaiah Bond out of Texas. I currently have him as like my 15th wide receiver off the board, and it's probably only going to get lower because I don't really like the route running refinement that he has. Everything is ran at one speed. You can easily just see him run into cornerbacks if they don't do anything. BOND. But
Bond. I'm not seeing.
well, we get it. Okay, just needed one extra letter. Had to type out the full thing.
There we go. 5'11", 180, Texas, out of Texas. 4.28. Cody. Oh my goodness.
He is the speed burner out of this class. If I had to pick one, I think he'll run faster than Tez Johnson.
Wow. He's not far off my criteria. 5'11". I love it.
Just
180.
the weight.
Yeah, right. So, and what do we have? 34 receptions, 540 yards, 5 touchdowns. Weren't you saying this is the team that just has a lot of they're spreading the ball out quite a bit?
That's Tennessee, but also Texas kind of does the same thing as well. They have an interesting offense as well, where you call it kind of like the Cliff Kingsbury style horizontal raid with Steve Sarkisian. They kind of run the same thing, and Quinn Ewers has his own limitations as a quarterback as well. You don't see as much downfield production with him because I think Quinn Ewers' deep ball is the worst out of anybody who could potentially get drafted this year. Like everything just falls 10 feet away from a deep shot wide receiver. But he's not even on the field all the time. There's barely a whole game to watch, with over like 3 catches. He only had 34 receptions for 540 yards and 5 touchdowns this year. So like me personally, I don't think I'd take him to like the 3rd or 4th, but I think some team is just going to like the speed so much that they're going to take him in like round 2.
Yeah, so NFL Draft Buzz also has him projected for late 2nd round. Let's see here. So their player comparison, Xavier Worthy, we know him very well. Roman Wilson out of Michigan, we know him very well, and Marvin Mims. So again, unfortunately, I think he's going to fall outside of the Bills. I just don't see them, doing this type of thing. It's rare. Bills, Ken Coleman, I forget. He was obviously taken in the 2nd, but the Bills haven't invested in a receiver. They did take Dalton Kincaid, tight end, but wide receiver. Been a while since they really drafted a receiver high. But so again, I love it. Great. 5'11", 180. Take the 4.2 guy. Oh my goodness. He would fit the bill very well. But again, I don't see us in that move. All right. Who else we got, sir? We got anyone else?
Got it. Got a couple more that I can still throw out here. Let's go with LeJohntay Wester. This is one I haven't gotten to film analysis on yet, but as far as criteria, as far as stats, I think he's in there. So LA John Tay. He was just up.
Oh, was it?
Tay is on the end of that.
Oh,
so,
Tay
out of Colorado.
Gotcha.
So
Ooh,
definitely on the smaller side, five
mhm.
nine, 177, but a 4.38, and I could see that going lower as well. And he's definitely not a
930.
guy in top of draft. He'll easily be, I would say, within rounds 5, 6, 7.
Oh, I love it. So, 167 would have scared me, but Xavier Worthy was what, 165? Very
Yeah, I
durable.
have him in from the Shrine Bowl 177,
Okay. Oh, even better. That's
but I have him
perfect.
at 5'9", 177.
I don't mind that. Again, Xavier Worthy proved me wrong. I was worried about how he'd hold up in the NFL. He actually held up better than our big 6'4", 220 Keenan Coleman. Keenan Coleman missed a few games. But let's go see here where they're projecting him. Oh my goodness. How's a guy like this, well, like draft projection the seventh? Is it just because of the school he went to? Um,
You do have Travis Hunter, and you also have another draftable wide receiver in. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I can find it. Jimmy Horn was also on the team, so the production just isn't really there. He's probably serving as a slot only wide receiver, as a wide receiver 3. Um, but as far as just traits go, like he definitely has that. I think there's just a little bit of a limited unknown upside with him because of the production.
well, when you say production, he had 74 receptions.
You do have that. It's a high power
141
passing
yards.
offense. They have like
Yeah.
one of the worst running games in the league.
Okay.
So you're going to have a little bit of that bias on him.
Yeah, they have him ranked as the 31st in the wide receivers. So that's just crazy to me. Somebody that is like this is ranked that low. But again, flyer, sure. If he's there in the sixth or seventh, Buffalo better, and they haven't already taken someone to address that. Got to take this guy.
They'll also dink him a little bit just because like NFL draft doesn't like slot receivers as much, like true only slot receivers. Maybe he would kind of overlap with the Khalil Shakira. Um, and you would have to kind of find them individual packages for him to go a little bit more vertical as a deep threat. But I think he's a very good slot wide receiver.
Yeah, and like any smaller frame guy, I mean, of course, the NFL draft buzz says, raises durability concerns. I had that same issue with Xavier Worthy. He proved me wrong. Struggles to defeat press coverage. I don't know. If you're that fast, you're putting a quick juke on these guys trying to press you. Um, Xavier Worthy seemed to not struggle with that, at least from the games that I saw. So interesting, interesting. Again, nice flyer towards the end of the draft. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I mean all the stats other than blocking, which you would expect from a smaller guy. But man, could see him coming in. All right. Who we got next?
I got one more that really fits bucket. We'll go with Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech. Jalen Lin and then Lane Lane.
Was
Y
there?
in front of the L
Oh, I'm sorry. Why in front of the O?
in the first name. Yes, first name
Oh,
Jaylin.
yeah. What was it?
Lane Lane. There it is.
Virginia Tech. Here we go. All right, 5'10", 196, close on the weight, runs a 4.42. What do you like about Jalen Lee?
This is one that I haven't really gotten to too much of the tape yet, but he's definitely a name that I have heard in NFL draft circles so far. As he's moving, he's one of like everybody's late round sleeper type guys. I haven't personally got into dig into his film yet, to where I can actually tell you like exactly what about his game and style that I absolutely like or dislike. But just from like hearing things throughout all of the shows that I watch, the content I take in, Jalen Lane definitely one that everybody's like a sleeper on, which could end up pushing him up the draft board by the time that we get there. However, definitely one with the 5'10", almost 200 build with a 4.42. If he does have that vertical threat to his game, I think you could easily see Jalen Lane being a target there late.
Let's see where they got him here. Projected. Oh, they got him going as an undrafted free agent.
Ooh,
Interesting.
okay.
Interesting. All right. So, of all the folks that we talked about, of course, Davion Williams, of all these, again, because the Bills are probably going to draft somebody late. They're not going to go wide receiver early. There's no way. I don't see it. Um, I like Savion Williams. I didn't look. Where did they have him projected? Take a
I
look real
think we
quick.
saw him in the third.
Yeah, third round. Okay. And Buffalo doesn't have a third round, so they have to make a move to get there. again, because he may miss, looks like he may miss both the combine and pro day. Maybe that helps him drop a little bit more. And then the other guy was it Deontay or Dante Thornton?
Uh, Lejonte, or sorry, Deontay, Dont apostrophe E. Thornton.
Yes. So of all the folks we talked about, those are those that again late round pick flyer on them. So there's some potential out there. Some potential. We talked about a lot of different receivers, 6 foot and over, even some under 6 foot, who can really take the top off of defenses. It's my hope that the Bills will land someone like this. And again, this isn't going to be. We're not looking for a starter here. We're looking for someone who come in. I don't know, 10% of the snaps, maybe less, and just come in for those plays where we can use Josh Allen's arm to its fullest extent. Go deep, young man. Um, Not to say we can't go deep with who we have right now. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But again, I just feel like this is something we need. So
Yeah,
Cody,
I
yeah,
think that Amari Cooper replacement is more of what I see within the offense. Like I still love Matt Collins as that deep hole
yeah,
shot guy. I mean, he was leading. He was leading touchdown wide receiver
it
for y'all
was
last year, wasn't he?
crazy. Yeah,
Would love to see him go back there for Matt Collins, and if he does go anywhere else, he might command a little bit of money with how good the season was. So, if you do need to replace either Mac or Amari or both, yeah, you might have to take one of these deeper shot guys.
yeah. He's. I mean, I think his current contract was couple million per year. I don't know if he's gonna, command a ton of money. So I think whatever it's going to be, I mean, hell, he deserves it. If they got a bump to 3 per year, uh, re-sign this guy definitely. I mean, he's been around, right? He's not the been around like how many teams? It's been a few different teams already in his career, 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's certainly bumped around a couple of different times. Whatever AI overview is worth, they have him at a 1 year, 2.4 million. That doesn't make sense. AI, AI doesn't. AI Google thing doesn't work yet. 7 to 9 million, I think, is what they're saying over a 1 or 2 year period.
Let's take a look at the spot track real quick and see what they're saying market value is because they have market value. So for market value on let me try to find them real quick. Collins, I know.
Yeah, I guess they still have market valued at a 1 year, $2.4 million.
Okay.
Because he was originally this year on a 1 year, $2.6 million. I don't know how his contract goes down though. That's my question.
Yeah. So
In
I
market
mean,
value.
I'm all about signing him. I don't care if it's 2, 3, 4 million. That's kind of the cap there for me. But bring this man back. He proved his worth and deserves to get paid.
Yeah,
But
fully
interesting
agree.
stuff, Cody. I mean, it's 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 not the end of the world if the Bills don't get a speedster. They showed what they could do with the players that they have. Um, they added Amari Cooper, and I mean the Bills can move the ball. They were one of the top offenses in the league as far as scoring points. They have a really good run game. Like I said, everything's intact on that offensive line. You're bringing back most of your core group on wide receivers, minus Amari. Amari was a late, it was what middle of the year ad.
Right.
So I'm still excited whether they get one of these guys or not. I think it'd be nice to add one just to flyer late in the game. We also have some guys on the practice squad. Shavers, Tyrell Shavers. I think I love him. I mean, he showed some flash in one of the games last year. Speedster, another big tall guy. So who knows? They might say, if we take anyone, it might be a very, very late 6th or 7th round pick. But interesting, good stuff, Cody. I mean, thanks for joining me on this. So, and you've educated me quite a bit. I haven't even done draft. Usually, I don't even start looking at draft stuff until after free agency.
Yeah.
This is definitely early for us, but good stuff here because I think we've pretty much listed most of the wide receivers that the Bills could potentially take a shot at, except for a few. There's those first rounders, no, they're out the door.
Right.
Second rounders, probably out the door. Third rounders, we don't have a third round. pick. So we're gonna have to make a move if we want to get there. Probably fourth, fifth, or sixth is what we're looking at. And you've given me some that could go in either one of those rounds.
And there's probably a couple more out there that I don't have built into my database yet that could probably go in that sixth, seventh round range. Who might be your 6 foot plus burner, but that's just not really this class, unfortunately, for the Bills. Just the NFL in general. There's a lot of bigger guys, but typically they're going to be in that 4.5 to 4.6 range, and it's just a weaker wide receiver class, which is going to put all of that premier talent and a bunch of those guys that do have that athletic ability up into that first and second round. And then you really just kind of get like, once I think you get out of the third round, mid third round, even, I think you get into a pretty big dart throw land at wide receiver of guys that you just hope can backfill in as a replacement level or as a specialty usage wide receiver. So the wide receiver class kind of affects things, and then the prospect just changed because a lot of the last classes we've had the smaller, really faster guys, or the leaner, faster guys that have come out. We just don't really have that profile as much this year. But definitely still a very good class. I think it is overstated. If you hear anybody say that the wide receiver class just sucks in general, because that theory is out there a lot,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. It's just not deep in that like mid 2 to 3 round range for me personally.
Got it. And we got the combine, what, less than 10
Starting
days?
next week.
Next week does it start? All right. I'm looking forward to that. Always love the combine. Yeah, we'll have some, we're going to get into some future shows. We're going to be, really focusing on what I think the Bills are going to be looking at. That's defensive tackles, defensive edge. I think Russell Douglas, I fear that he may be done with the Bills. I don't know. So we're going to have to look at cornerback. We know Kyrie Elam was a fail, so he's probably going to be, I don't know, moved. I don't know. I don't even know if someone would take him at this point in time. So we're going to have to look at potentially another corner, safety. DeMar Hamlin is also a unrestricted free agent. We do have Cole Bishop, Tyler Rapp, so we might be okay there. Tyler Rapp's a little fragile. I'm only concerned with that. And then as well as Benford. Christian Benford is great 6th round pick, great corner, very good, but also health wise, very fragile. So a little, again, more concerns about the defense than the offense, and whether we get a burner or not, it's not the end of the world to me, but I would like to see it. What about you, Cody? I mean, what you got going on in the near future here? Well, I expect you're not really because you're more of that fantasy draft room talk. Right. Not really looking at those defensive side of the fence, are you?
No, I mean, I watch my NFL shows just to kind of get the feel of the names, but I'm not personally going through anything. Like any information that I would give out on here, or any information that I would give out as a take would all just be regurgitated from somebody else. And I don't really think that does justice. Like if I'm giving a take, I want it to be from me. Like I want to tell you what I actually think about the wide receiver. And if it contradicts, it contradicts. It's perfectly fine. Like I can tell you about some of the guys at the top, but as far as actually being in depth and watching their tape, I spend every amount of my time on the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. That's the only ones that matter to me. Unless it's for the Texans, I will actually put a little bit of work into there.
All right, so tell me real quick, the quarterback room for this year's draft, better or worse than last year?
Oh, it's infinitely worse. Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, they would maybe be quarterback 5 in last year's draft.
All right, what about the running back?
Running back is the best running back class. Some people are calling it the best running back class that we've had since 2017. And if you know anything about that 2017 class, I mean, Austin Eckler was a free agent. It's Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, just guys littered around the NFL that have stuck around for years and years and years. There's like 10 of them that are still playing. I think there was James Conner and Joe Mixon as well. It's just a stacked class, and that's what we have this year. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, actually, who just put out a recent mock draft, his 2.0 version, and he had 3 running backs in the first round.
Wow.
It is deep and it's top loaded. It's the best since I've been scouting. It's the best running back class that I've seen.
Wow. Fortunately for the Bills, we don't need a running back. I don't know if that's could be unfortunately, but no, fortunately we're good. We're good. I'm very happy with our running back situation. Not that we need tight ends, but how's the tight end room compared to last year?
Tight end is also very good. You obviously had Brock Bowers, and I don't think there's a Brock Bowers in this class.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to have 2 first-round tight ends in both Brock Bowers and Colston Loveland. and then you're probably going to have another 4 or so guys that go within rounds 2, round 3.
Give me
Arroyo,
those.
you've got out of Miami. Fannin out of Bowling Green is probably going to go up there just because he was a production monster. But there's a lot of guys that are actually really good to like. Gunnar Helm out of Texas, Mason Taylor out of LSU. Got a lot of names there at the top.
Who was the two in the first round? Because I think you said Brock Bowers. Who
Oh,
was second
I
last year?
probably did. I probably
Yeah,
repeated his name.
yeah,
Tyler Warren is the first one.
okay.
He could easily go top 10. There's a lot of mocks going him to the Jets right now at 7 overall.
Wow,
So Tyler Warren is the absolute monster out of Penn State, and then Colston Loveland out of Michigan.
wow. Did you have Brock Bowers doing what he did last year? Did you see him being that talent?
um, I definitely don't. I definitely don't ever, because I do projections for fantasy players every year.
Yeah,
Obviously, blew those out of the water.
yeah,
Absolutely insane what he was able to do his rookie year. I do think that there's also a little bit of a factor in with that like Devontae Adams was on that team as their primary boundary wide receiver, and then he was traded away. So
yeah,
like you only had Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers on that team. But target, we always like to use the saying targets are earned, not given.
yeah.
And if you can earn those targets and even the yak that he was able to rack up with those targets, I mean, yeah, he was fantastic.
It was incredible. I can only hope that Dalton Kincaid has a bounce back year, because last year was a little bit of a letdown. Some injuries, just not the numbers. And again, that was more of the scheme the Bills run.
Right.
Everybody eats is true. That's basically how they play the game. Everyone's going to eat in this offense. But yeah, good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to the draft. We'll be live again. Um, you know, you'll be welcome to join us, Brian, Mr. B-Bake. I would love to have him. But let's see B-Bake. We got to meet him. Got to get him on camera. I feel like he's a little shy, Cody. I'm calling you
Well,
out, B-Bake.
we'll get him. He's just a busy man, I guess. I don't know. Well, but we got to call him out. Yeah, for sure. Got to pressure him into it. But yeah, he said if he gets a little bit of it, he has to feel like he needs to have something to research. He doesn't just want to come in here dry. He wants to actually know what he's talking about, which I can respect a little bit. So
I,
we'll get him
I
set
give
up.
you the info ahead of time. I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about. How long does he need?
He's wanting like weeks, man. That's what he's telling
Are
me.
you kidding me? Oh my goodness.
Uh,
Um, any other NFL news that is worthy of talking about right now that you've heard
um,
recently?
I don't know what I would love to hear your thoughts, especially because there's rumors that it's even impacted by the AFC East a little bit because Aaron Rodgers might be moving to that team in replacement of him. But can you tell me? B Bake in the chat saying he feels called out now. Yeah, you are called out.
Good
Um,
to see you, BB.
yeah, I don't understand Matthew Stafford leaving the Rams. This whole trade notion, because everybody in media, it's been like the talk of the last week, is that basically everybody in media is talking like he's going to be traded. And I don't understand it. You have a young playoff team that out of any team in the playoffs played the Eagles the best and were leading going into the fourth quarter, I believe, or maybe at the very end of the third quarter, played them the best out of any team, young up and coming team. And you're just going to fully reset at quarterback or just get a different veteran in as a replacement for a couple of years or just draft a rookie. Like no option that I've heard. And Aaron Rodgers is probably the best one that I've heard, I guess. But I haven't heard an option to replace him unless the contract is just at such an impasse that I don't understand why they would do it.
So I hadn't heard that. I know Aaron Rodgers was told they're moving on with him. So you're telling me that the buzz is that Stafford's going to be traded because of the contract? Is that why people are saying this right now?
They say, well, there is a contract impasse because they reworked it last year, and it's basically gotten to a point where they have to rework it every year.
Yeah.
But they're also saying like he does this thing where he needs to decide if he's going to retire or not. There's also this thing of they want to fully reset with the team and start moving it to a younger, more future-based build, and no version of it makes sense to me. But there's reputable people like even the Schefters and Rappaports of the world are saying like people they're not saying it yet, but a lot of people are saying it's more likely than not that Stafford gets moved, and I just personally don't see it. And there's a couple of staunch rejectors to it, like I think the contract is the biggest thing because they got into a little bit of a sticky situation last offseason with it. There's a little bit of tension between quarterback and front office. But just from a team building standpoint, like you've got a young team and your veteran quarterback, like keep the run moving. I don't get it.
Yeah, to me, I mean, first of all, Aaron Rodgers being a potential replacement, no. I mean, it's a worse situation,
Right.
right? It's a worse situation, so that's crazy to even have that conversation. To me, look, it's LA. I'm 2 hours away. LA's Showtime. They want winners. I don't think the fans would ever want to rebuild. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it at all. Look, they reset a couple years ago. After the Super Bowl,
Yep.
they lost the following years, and then the year after that, I think it was with when Puka. Did they have Puka? They got back to the playoffs, and I mean, who knows what they're going to do with Cooper Cup? He's been talked about being traded as well.
He's already said he's going to be released by the team.
Okay, so I mean, again, but Cooper over his last few years, he's also been injury prone. But I just don't see it. I mean, again, for me, I don't think the LA fans would stand for it. I don't. You're LA, and you're all about Showtime, so
Yep.
you're one of the biggest markets in the country.
The other name they brought up is Sam Darnold, but like it's a tough sell even there for me. I don't see that one as even being better than Stafford coming in. I mean, they were in the game where the Vikings were supposed to beat the Rams, and Sam Darnold looked like absolute crap, and they got blown out because he was bad. Yeah,
Crazy.
so that's one I haven't been able to wrap my mind around. There's also the T. Higgins is going to be franchise tagged by the Bengals. I think that's really the only other big news. So everybody in NFL media world can stop saying that every team is going to fix their wide receiver room with T. Higgins. I have heard it has to be now 30 teams that I have heard T. Higgins is going to go there. He's going to be a Bengal. It's going to happen.
T. Higgins was talk last year as well.
Correct.
So
that was his first year of the franchise tag, and now he's on his second year of the franchise tag.
I think even us Bills fans were like, "Let's get T. Higgins."
Oh,
right,
for sure. Every team,
everybody.
Yeah, every team out there wants T. Higgins, but there's a bunch of stuff going into it. They actually have the cap space to make it work. They probably don't have the cap space to make Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins work, but he actually just canned his original agent that he's had throughout all of his career, and he now shares the same agent as Jamar Chase, who is also going to get his deal. So the thought is they're basically working both deals unilaterally to get them both to sign their long term.
Yeah, ideally, I mean, the buzz for my circle of friends, Bills fans, is getting a Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, or Trey Henderson. We'll take him. That guy is probably going to command the least amount of money, even though it's going to be a lot. I think he still has a lot of juice, and he was 16 sacks last year, 16 or 17.
Yeah,
he brings it. So that's our buzz right now. It's like, man, if we can make a deal for one of these guys, game changers, because the Bills just don't have that game changer on the defensive line. I mean, we have Ed Oliver. Ed's a nice piece, but he needs somebody next to him. We need that D tackle. I think we're going to address that potentially in the first round of the draft, if not the second round for sure. Edge rusher needed desperately. So that's to me where they're going to put their main focus this year. But man, Myles Garrett saying he wants to be traded really got some teams excited.
I think I definitely think Myles Garrett is gone. As much as the Browns don't want to admit it, I don't see him playing anymore for them. And then Hendrickson might just be cap casualty gone as well. So I could easily see both of those two hitting the market. And even if not, or if we maybe aren't able to make the grandstand offer to get them, it's also a very stacked D line class. Both D interior and D end are both stacked right now.
All right, so I'm excited to get into that talk when we get there. B-Bake saying T. Higgins is basically a lock to the Rams. Not if Stafford leaves. He's probably not going to want to go there. Rams, Vikings, Texans, Jets, Bengals, and the Calgary Stampedes at this point.
Yeah, you can still type out another 15 teams. He's going to go to the Patriots. He's going to go to the Carolina Panthers.
Oh yeah.
Literally everywhere.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. B-Bake, I didn't know you're out there when we called you out. I'm like, shoot, now we're like, I'm feeling bad, but definitely, I
Don't feel
mean,
bad about it. He
the
deserved it.
the mystery is building. Yeah, we're gonna see B-Bake on camera. I don't know. We'll find out soon. Cody, it's always fun with you, man, and I hope to do more of these shows as far as the draft stuff. We get into more skill positions and maybe even talk some some defensive side. I know that's not your thing, but I feel like you're that type of guy that if you put your mind to it, you're gonna really get into it. You're that guy that like
I
spends hours and hours and hours digesting film, all kinds of stuff.
it's certainly not the film side, but like I can regurgitate enough information to be dangerous that I hear because yeah, as soon as I come home and even while I'm at work, it is 2 times speed on NFL podcasts all day long.
Is B-Bag also into the fantasy stuff? Does he do shows with you? Is he on
No,
this?
I actually have a different co-host through Dynasty Fantasy
Okay,
Football. Be big. He hasn't stepped into those waters yet.
okay.
I don't even think he played fantasy last year, so I have to give him a little bit of crap for that one.
Oh, okay,
But no, I've got my co-host out in Arizona who I met through our Destination Dev or DD Fantasy Football group.
okay.
That's where all of my Discord land lives and all my information goes through.
All right. Well, once again, I'll give a shout to the Discord. I'll put the link. I didn't put the link yet. I'll put the link right after this show. Join it. I know Cody's there. I don't think B's there. B-Bake's not there. So B-Bake, click that link, man.
He's in there. He hasn't been
He's,
active in there, but he
oh,
is
he
in.
doesn't say anything. He's silent. Silent. All right. Gotcha. All right. Well, Cody, thanks. Any final words you want to say or anything to have the, if you send me the links once again, I'll post that in the description so people can go see where you got your shows going on. You're fantastic. Great to have you as always.
Really appreciate it. Always fun hopping on every time. And yeah, anytime we can do this over the next, all portion of the off season, we're going to have a lot of dead period, right? So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we got to talk about, and maybe not a lot of information. We'll be on. We might have a combine stream actually coming up that I might be on. If you all
Nice.
want to tap into that one over on DD Fantasy Football, and we'll link that one in below. But we'll do that, and then we'll probably have draft one as well. But I don't want to compete with y'all's draft one. Actually, I might leave theirs to come to y'all's because I like it more over
Oh,
here
yeah.
anyway.
Join us.
But
Join us. Or at least join us. Jump on when it's getting close to the Bills.
exactly, yeah,
Right? You
we'll
see that?
definitely do some more. And yeah, I mean, this fantasy football draft class, as much as everybody wants to say it's trash, it's just for me personally, as that type of an analyst, like it's only because the quarterbacks aren't that great. Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, I think have all got really, really good parts of them and really, really good players in it. So I'm excited to see what happens on the offensive side of the football, especially from the combine to the draft. We got free agency coming up here. We got the franchise tag window, I think, already opened up or just about to open up. So football season never dies. It should probably have a little bit more of an off season, but it never dies. And really appreciate everybody for tapping in over here. And for you for letting me join on again. And I will do it. We'll do it anytime I can make it work.
Yeah, I love it. So I'd love to see you get on a show with Chris and Jeremy. The three of you talking fantasy football would be incredible. Funny, Cody. So I don't know why I did this, but yesterday it was had some time on my hands, and for whatever reason, on my phone I see our final post game after the loss to the Chiefs. Right, so I'm like, I watch it. Now listen, when I do these shows because I'm the mediator, I'm watching a bunch of different things. I'm bringing up things that we can show on screen. And honestly, I don't hear a lot of the great takes that you guys have. I'm trying to think of the next question, who I'm going to throw it to. There's a lot involved. And so when I rewatch a show, if I'm entertained on a show that I just did live, I thought that show was fantastic. I watched that again and I'm like, my God, we do our best shows after the final season's over. And it was great. It's so funny because I don't know, just letting people know who do these, who do podcasts, when you have multiple people on and you're really trying to keep the flow going and your focus, like you, I miss some of the things Jake says. I miss some of the things Cody says,
Yep.
Sean, Brett. Hell, I miss some of the things I say. No.
Hey, I'm the
But when
worst
you
with
watch
myself.
it,
I never remember what I say. I always
yeah,
have to go back and rewatch it for me because I'm just speaking off the top of the head as it comes up.
yeah. So I'm like, I like to rewatch it too to make sure all the tech was right. To, see where I screwed up because I'm old and I say some things that I don't know where they came from. But um, it was good. I'm like, damn, it's enjoyable. And my wife comes in, she's like, "You're watching yourself on the show." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't get to see that. I don't get to hear it all the time in full, and it feels like a new show to me. It's crazy. I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
I actually, honestly, probably after I get off of here, I'll probably go watch this one back. I watched that one back as well. That as painful as it is probably to
Yeah,
watch, like it was actually just in terms of content. I do think it was actually good. So
yeah.
glad you got to see that one on that side as well.
Yeah, it was the same thing last year because we had lost, back to back to the Chiefs, and it always seems to be our most watched show of the year. And then I rewatch, and I'm like, well, I can see why. Not only do people want to come in and give us, Chiefs fans want to give us some grief for losing, but it's just funny. It's good stuff. So anyhow, Cody, thank you so much. Everyone out in the chat, thank you so much for joining us on the rewatch. If you catch us, please let us know what you thought about those receivers. Who do you want the Bills to go after? Obviously, I don't think we can go in the first or second. Maybe you disagree with me. You tell me how important a wide receiver is, especially a speedster for you in this year's draft or free agency. Drop those in the comments below. We'll see you soon next Wednesday for sure. You might see some shorts come out this week. I know Jake's going to be putting some out. We're looking at more targets on free agency, and he's also going to probably be getting some defensive targets to look at in the draft as well. So more to come. And again, thanks everyone. Take care. Have a good night. Go Bills.
Go Texans.